Hi, and welcome to Fish Tank Diaries Series 3. Today's episode 3, and we've got with us Tom Doherty, who is the owner of HR Department Bournemouth. Tom, thank you very much for coming along and joining us today.
No problems. Pleasure to be with you.
So, Tom, you're going to talk to us about some of the issues that have come off the back of the furlough scheme that's been put in place. More importantly, HR complications that have come along. So, if I could start, what specific complications have you seen around the furlough scheme when many have perceived it as a bit of a lifeline for businesses?
I think lifeline is the right word, because to put together a scheme like this in such a short period of time is kind of nothing short of remarkable. I think the issues that have come with that is I think we're on, as of today, about our 8th iteration in terms of the guidance. So different complications that have kind of come up have been who's eligible for furlough, because obviously we've had issues where people have been put on payroll past certain dates. People actually saying, well, should I use furlough? And also people actually saying, what work can they do whilst they're on furlough? And that's been probably one of the most complicated questions, because obviously it's very clear in the guidance that someone who is then designated as furloughed shouldn't be doing any work for their employer. They can do training and they can do voluntary work, but again, there's very much a little guidance on actually what is applicable and what isn't. So I think those have been some of the main challenges that initially come up. And as we start to go through the scheme, and as we've all got hopefully a better understanding of it, and no doubt it will change in time anyway, will be actually about bringing people off the furlough scheme and how they're actually going to do it. So that's probably going to be some of the biggest challenges that we're going to have with it as well.
And how has it impacted, how has the furlough scheme impacted business owners, say, for instance, one man, one woman bands that have the ability to effectively furlough themselves, but then need to be able to pick up the phone if somebody does call, even though the business is very quiet?
So the issue that we have with people who are just a single director within a business with no other staff, and that business's phone might ring, the email might come in, you might need to do some chasing of payments, talk to suppliers. And HMRC have been really, really clear about this, which is someone should not be, who is designated as furloughed, providing a service or generating a profit for the business. So in that case, a director shouldn't be designated as furloughed. And this is probably one of the bigger aspects of things that have happened. Of course, people who are limited company directors who perhaps have seen a downturn in their business for, obviously the wide range of reasons we've got in front of us, really have got very little or no support. So therefore going down the route of obviously the CBILS and other bounce back loans and things that have come about. But I've had those conversations a couple of times. It's difficult to have those conversations with people, but I learned very early on in your life, there's two people you don't want to annoy. One is HMRC and the other is probably your mother.
I think that's excellent advice, and I would totally agree with both. So what have been some of the most common short-term impacts that you've seen? More importantly, the short-term impacts, the differences between the furloughed staff and the people that are still working?
If you think about probably issues around resentment, you've obviously got some people who are probably picking up the slack, who are continuing to work and maybe doing other people's duties, that they then perhaps perceive that people then that have been furloughed may not be obviously doing anything because they're not at work, which is not necessarily the case, but that resentment that might happen of people still working and others not. And then probably the other side of it as well, where you've got people who are furloughed who do want to work and are perhaps not feeling comfortable at home, or perhaps not feeling particularly strong at term this time of wanting to be at work, and that resentment towards people who are able to still go to work or provide a service to their employer. So a lot of what we've started to talk about with employers with really is how you're going to deal with that reconnection of people. There's nothing that stops an employer speaking to one of their furloughed staff to just check in and see how they are, and we try and encourage as many people as we can to get both existing staff and furloughed staff to do almost like a social activity every so often, whether that's the now famed pub quizzes through to something more about just having a chat and kind of checking in. But the big issue that comes, of course, is that both sides of those divides, some people are going to feel a little bit of resentment and almost a little bit of wariness. So as an employer, you've got to kind of keep on top of that. And it's about being open and able to have those conversations. And I do kind of hope post all of this that everyone's obviously a bit more considerate, everyone's a bit more kind when thinking about potentially mental health issues especially. But ultimately, we've still got to get business done, we've still got to get everyone reopened, we've still got to get people moving forward, and those are going to be some of the big challenges that people have in terms of, first of all, reintegration into the workplace, and almost dealing with that kind of like survivor syndrome that comes with these things as well.
So okay, so you hit on my next point there. At some point, hopefully in the next few weeks, we are going to see, as you said, the reintegration of the workforce back into the marketplace, people working again, businesses starting to open, a lot more businesses starting to open their doors. What problems do you see on the horizon when furlough is pulled?
Well, I think there's probably 5 things that you can easily identify. One is, of course, is the business going to look the same post whatever date the scheme actually ends? And at this point, we're talking about the 30th of June, could be extended. And also then when effectively lockdown happens, because I guess we have our own concerns that you may have people who don't feel safe with coming back into a workplace. And obviously, as part of the responsibility for an employer, you have a duty of care to ensure that there's a safe working environment. And that therefore means that businesses really do need to communicate with staff coming back into the working environment about what safety measures they're undertaking. So that means reviewing risk assessments, that means reviewing method statements, that means potentially trying to find new ways of working, new ways of bringing people around the environments, whether it's from an office environment through to a manufacturing environment, even through to an open space. It's a very, very complicated thing to do. The advice that we're saying to everyone is look, review, communicate, and try to understand if anyone does have any concerns. So at least you can discuss it with them and address it with them prior to thinking about any next steps in regards to them not returning to the workplace. We also think that people will naturally also, especially people that have been shielding or people that have been stuck indoors for a continual period of time, there's going to be a really big adjustment to then actually just going out and not just talking about your hours exercise or anything from that perspective, but physically going and seeing people as well, and how social distancing will actually operate within the workplace. And also as well, we have to accept that some businesses, regardless of where they are in the world at the moment or what they're doing, this whole pandemic will have fundamentally altered their business model, may have fundamentally altered their clients, their suppliers, and that business might not be the same when we come back. So we have to start thinking about, as a business, how we're planning to deal with that. And sadly, obviously, that means that some people may be at risk of redundancy, and therefore it's important that a business starts to consider what it looks like post the end of the furlough scheme, but also any information that's in respect to the lockdown ending as well. And I see that probably as one of the biggest issues that we're going to have going forward, is businesses looking to change the structure of their workforce to meet whatever fall in demand has actually had as part of that process. And the key, of course, is take advice, make sure you follow the advice that you're given, and really do think about how your business is going to change during that period of time.
I think that's absolutely fantastic advice. I think there's some amazing, food for thought for people in there. And I know that your landscape and what you're doing with regards to, HR concerns and businesses is moving and changing on a daily or weekly basis. So, Tom, if you're happy to give us the time to come back in a couple of weeks and have a chat, I'd really love to get some more of your thoughts for us to be able to, share with people out there.
Yeah, delighted to. Go on the hrdebt.co.uk website, because we're constantly updating the furlough guidance and information in regards to that. And we're always more than happy to just try and share some of that knowledge and share some of that perceived wisdom, of course, to help businesses out. And genuinely, thanks for giving me the opportunity to come on and chat and experience doing this via social distancing. Appreciate it, Sam. Thank you.
Look forward to speaking to you again soon, Tom.
Take care.